How to sell anything to anyone. Now, this is a process I think that I've refined over the years to where if I'm dealing with somebody who has a desire and genuine motivation to purchase a product or service, I know that maybe not every single time, but most of the time I can get them to agree to sign the contract, buy the product or service or whatever it is. And it's a process that once we go a couple layers deeper in sales, you'll get it, okay? The first part is we have to educate people through the sales process, but at the same time, you have to understand their worldview and how they go about making decisions. So through the question asking process and qualification process, you need to pay very close attention. And this is why you need really elite level scripts and questions, because how they answer gives you insight into how they think and how they're viewing your product or service, and how they're going about arriving at the decision, okay? Because within that framework, you will find this. And this is why I said you have to educate them through your questions and through your qualification process. Many people have the wrong information, misinformation, whatever word you want to use, in regards to your product or service that clouds their judgment and makes it impossible for them to arrive at a decision. And if somebody has the incorrect or wrong information, it could turn a yes into a no. So I primarily deal in real estate on the retail side, right? I started as a solo real estate agent. I built up a nationwide team now. I operate in multiple states. And something that I've refined through our sales process is that because I realized very early on in my career, a lot of people have the wrong information when it comes to making a decision around buying real estate, selling real estate, investing in real estate. And I said, man, unless I'm able to crack that, right? And kind of vaporize that misinformation, I cannot arrive or get them to arrive at a decision unless I break and disassemble that bad information. So that first point that I brought up about educating people through it has to be involved in your sales process. Now, depending on what product or service you sell, you're going to go about that differently. However, through my scripts and dialogues and everything that I teach my people, we're qualifying, we're understanding how they process the world and how they arrive at decisions. And that second point is in there too. We're weaving in dialogues and scripts that educate people, and a lot of times can completely dismantle misinformation or objections before they even come up. And if you can do that, you've effectively learned how to indirectly debunk those things and sell to people, which is infinitely more effective than just having a direct approach. Direct being, hey, do you want to buy or sell? Hey, let's do this, right? Which you want to have incorporated into your sales game. However, you want to make sure that as much as possible, you're subtle with your selling. And this is another reason that I know higher level sales is so much more effective, because there's so many subtle, subliminal, and indirect things that we do that either handle things up front before them bringing it up, or later it completely dismantles it, meaning an objection just vaporizes because of something that you did earlier. Okay? So here's another one that I want to add to this. To sell anything to anyone, you want people in their mind to believe that they arrived at a conclusion themselves versus you spoon feeding it to them. And what I mean is this: if I ask you questions in a sequence that gets you to have the light bulb go off, and for you to think and then say the answer that I want to give to you, I've effectively done this. And this is, again, a higher level sales technique that a lot of people never really learn, or they never take their skill set to a high enough level where they can do this effectively. So instead of just telling you something, I'm much better off asking you a sequence of questions to get you to arrive at that. So I look at my industry, right, in real estate, and typically around this time, you know, when school starts, the fall, and then the winter time, we get a lot of objections and kind of, we can say hard stops based around that. Hey, kids are in school. Hey, we're gonna wait, blah, blah, blah. But what do we typically do incorrectly as salespeople? We say, oh no, you shouldn't wait because blah, blah, blah. You just wanna give them the information. No, that's wrong. You wanna ask questions. I could say, hey, Mr. Client, I'm so glad you brought that up. You would agree that most people share that sentiment, right? Now let's take a look at the market for a second. If most people wanna wait until after the holidays, what do you think is happening today in regards to inventory levels, meaning homes that are available for sale? What do you think is happening if most people believe what you believe and share that sentiment? You see, now I'm getting them to think and say, well, they'll say something like, well, I'm assuming less people are going to put their home on the market. Exactly. So as a seller, what type of position does that put you in? And they're going to have to arrive at the conclusion that it's advantageous. Now, again, I'm not going to walk you through that whole dialogue in this video, but I'm opening up the conversation, getting them to think and then respond with something that's going to lead me down towards a conclusion that is more beneficial for their decision-making process. Because at the end of that dialogue, we still may arrive at the conclusion that they should wait, and that's fine. I'll advise them to wait, and then we'll set something up for after the holidays. But some people, just under that assumption, would want to transact or do something now, but because they hold that belief, they think it's impossible. So the point is, it opens up the conversation in a very indirect way, gets them thinking, and then allows us to arrive at a definitive decision of yes or no, which is what you want. And a lot of people leave things up in the air with, I'll call you back, we'll talk later, because they lack the skill set to be able to navigate these situations. So I want to take a moment now, if you're watching this, I created a new sales quiz that's going to identify what type of salesperson you are and then give you questions along the lines of this framework that are going to help you. So click that first link in the description, and I have a ton of extra stuff too, like free scripts, sales crash course, all that stuff completely for free. And my website's there too if you want to browse the coaching and training and the other stuff too, right? I teach all salespeople, not just realtors, but that's completely up to you. And I wanted to make that note real quick here in the video. But some of these things that I gave you right now have taken me years to really develop and refine. And that's why I know as a salesperson, I'm much more equipped, better equipped than the average person, that if I get in a conversation with somebody, we're going to take it a lot farther. I'm going to be able to qualify them a lot deeper and then facilitate a decision. Whether it's yes or no is totally fine, right? But this is some of the framework and some of the building blocks that you guys need to develop that are going to allow you to really push this thing farther. There's a reason why certain people can do things like, you would hear the expression, oh, I can sell a ketchup popsicle to a lady selling white gloves. I can sell snow to an Eskimo, right? What they're implying is my skill set is so good that I can really sell at a high level and close, not everybody, because nobody's 100%, but a super high percentage, okay? Let's continue. The other one is understanding that so much of this is logical, but it's also emotional. So one of the most, I think, underrated skill sets is when you start engaging with somebody in a conversation or in the sale, being able to meet them where they're at on two levels, conversationally and emotionally. Conversationally meaning wherever I catch them and how the interaction begins, I present questions and dialogues that are similar to that frame of mind that they're in. A big mistake that I see people make is they'll have a script, and even if that script is good, it has a set of questions. But when you first start talking to somebody, you have to listen and pay very close attention to where they're at. Because if I open up the dialogue and their mind frame, their state of mind, and where they're at conversationally is in the middle portion of the script, the biggest mistake that I can make is asking the first question on the script, right? That's going to break rapport. I'm not meeting them where they're at conversationally. I need to ask the question that correlates directly to where their mind is focused on right now, that makes the most sense in that moment. Now, you're going to develop that over time and with a lot of reps and skill and experience, because most people are so nervous in the beginning, they're not going to be able to do that, right? Now, the second one I mentioned is emotionally. If somebody's sighing or they're apathetic, I need to meet them where they're at emotionally. If somebody's upset, I need to be upset with them emotionally. If someone is super cool, calm, and collected, I need to approach them that way too. So if conversationally you're on point, emotionally you meet them where they're at, now we're already starting off with a tremendous amount of subconscious rapport, which is infinitely more powerful than any conscious rapport. People focus on conscious rapport, which is, hey, you golf, I golf too. All that nonsense. That stuff is stupid. That's old school stuff from 1970s. It equates for probably 5% of rapport. 70, 80, 90% of your rapport is those two things that I just described. But again, it's going to take time and it's a little bit more layered. But I want you to understand the concept because that's how important it is. So we've barely started scratching the surface here, but these are some tools that I can give you guys that are a little bit more advanced in regards to selling at a higher level and effectively being able to sell anything to anyone. And again, the better you get, the more fun you're gonna have, the more motivated you're gonna be to sell, and the more you understand how much of an art form this is. I've always treated communication and selling as an art form. I relish in the fact that I can connect with people anywhere, any place, anytime, right? And I really think that this process of developing your communication, whether you get into sales or not, really is going to lead to you having a more fulfilled life, not only internally with your own process and your own self-image and confidence, but also in your interactions and dealings with the world. You'll evaporate shyness, social anxiety, and all those things. And again, it's just going to lead to a better life, better relationships with your friends, better relationships with your, wife, girlfriend, kids, whatever you have, and overall just a better existence. And I'm sure all of you would agree that if everybody on the planet improved their communication, how we interact with each other in the world would definitely be a better place. All right, so hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Leave a comment for the algorithm. Anything else I can do for you guys, let me know. If you want me to expand on any point, let me know. Be sure to take advantage of all the stuff in the description, and I'll see you on the next video. All right, peace.